Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This video is entitled The Climate Change Fake Ideology Turns First World Countries into Third World Hellholes. Now, the debate over the fake and false ideology over man-made climate change and CO2 carbon emissions has raged for a long time. I personally think the planet and the climate goes in cycles, and that the fake ideology of man-made climate change pushed by the globalists, Agenda 21, Bilderberg, and everyone else is completely false. And there's tons and tons of evidence to back that up. But I won't go into that today. That's for another video. The only thing that I'll say is, according to the lefty god Al Gore, half the American coast is supposed to be underwater by now, and the ice caps are supposed to be melting, and they're actually expanding. And America, as we all know, is going through incredible cold temperatures at the moment. It's more like we're about to have an ice age rather than a global warming crisis. But that's for another time, as I said. In Australia, recently, the Environment Court, yes, we have environment courts, how ridiculous is that, stated that a coal mine that's desperately needed in New South Wales, both for jobs and, millions and millions of dollars going into the economy, which is I thought a country is supposed to do, is look after their people in terms of jobs and bring millions and millions of dollars into the economy. That's what we're supposed to do, isn't it? But no. The judge in the Environment Court said, Rocky Hill coal mine it is, the judge in the Environment Court said, no, I won't allow this coal mine to go ahead. And one of the main reasons was dangers because of global warming and carbon emissions. Making judgments on people's lives and costing people thousands of jobs because of a fake, false ideology. I thought judges were supposed to impose the law, not impose their ideology and doctrine. But apparently I was wrong. There are activist judges everywhere, and I'm sick of it, and they should lose their jobs. Right. But let's change tack for a minute, right? Let's say, for argument's sake or hypothetical sake, that this fake, false ideology is correct, that humans do affect the climate, and there is such a thing as increased CO2 carbon emissions that affect the planet at a drastic level. Sounds ridiculous saying it, because we all know, any of us with half a brain know it's completely false. But anyway, let's move on. The chief scientist of Australia, who's a globalist and a massive climate change pusher, he was asked at Senate estimates. We call it Senate estimates in Australia. It's like America calls it Senate Intelligence Committee. But anyway, we have Senate estimates every year, right? And the senator asked the chief scientist this question: if Australia turned all their lights, all their power off, and completely produced no carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, what effect would it have on the planet? And the chief scientist said himself, 0.001%. I'll repeat again, 0.001%. And we're shutting down coal-fired power stations. we're making political decisions that affect people's lives. Judges are making ideological and political decisions affecting people's lives, and governments are our we have an election in May, and our leftist Marxist Labor government wants to ramp um, the reduction in carbon emissions, and wants renewables to be 50-50 by 2030. We're not even at 22% renewables at the moment, and we're having power blackouts, and our Australia's power costs are the most expensive in the world. We've got 400,000 people that can't pay their power bills. Imagine what's going to happen if we ramp it up another 30% and destroy our economy. Right? And you know what's ridiculous? Do you know what is absolutely ridiculous? We can't use coal. We can't produce more power or open up more coal-fired power stations or anything, but we export our coal to Japan and India and China that are building coal-fired power stations at a rapid rate, but our citizens have to suffer, and 400,000 people can't pay their power bills because it's too expensive. This is insanity. What are we doing? What are our leaders doing? Even if we turned off, as I stated before, even if we turned off all our power, we would virtually make no difference to the climate, even if we believed in this bullshit. So why are our leaders making our people suffer like this? It's tantamount to treason, in my opinion. Right? And let me tell you something else about the judge that presided over this, over whether this Rocky Hill coal mine in New South Wales could go ahead. He founded the action group that sued over this Rocky Hill coal mine. Talk about conflict of interest. It is an absolute disgrace. And you know what we found out just the other night? The government won't appeal the decision. So, people who are desperate for thousands of jobs, I guess the government doesn't care. I guess the New South Wales state government is too busy trying to be the teacher's pet and look cool in front of the UN. It is an absolute disgrace. It is an absolute disgrace. As I stated before, our power bills are among the most expensive in the world. People are paying over $1,000 a quarter. When a couple of weeks back, when we had the had the temperature hit over 40 degrees, the state government told medium and big large businesses to close because the power grid couldn't hold the power load. In a first world country, this is ridiculous. All over a false ideology with no real science backing it up. And you know what and you know what lefties that believe in this climate change bullshit doctrine that is destroying the Australian economy. The Australian economy should be the envy of the world because we've got all the coal which we export all over the world and don't look after ourselves. We shut our coal-fired power stations down. We've shut 2 down in the last 6 years, and now we can't produce the correct amount of power keep the power grid together, right? But we export it everywhere and let everyone else build coal-fired power stations. That's fine. Now, what are we doing? We just spend $1 billion on wind farms that will produce. Do you know how much power that'll produce? 3% of the power that we need. And we're going to spend $1 billion on it. I'll repeat it again. $1 billion for 3% of the power that we need. It is absolutely ridiculous. I'm I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting so fired up, people. But we got millions of homeless. We got millions of pensioners who are going to die either from the heat stroke or the cold in winter because they can't afford to turn their heater or their air conditioner on because of the expense of the power bill. And we're supposedly living in a first world country, right? And on top of that, I'll repeat again, if Australia turned all their power off, we would reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of the planet by 0.01%. What a joke. And our people are suffering. It is an absolute disgrace. Our politicians don't care about us, and we have to fight back, and we have to fight back now. This must stop now. Our farmers are suffering in northern New South Wales and Queensland because of 6 years of drought, and we're more concerned about they can't get any money because their government doesn't care about them. Livestock are dying all over the place. I'm sure some of you have heard about the drought in the droughts in northern Queensland and northern New South Wales and around the world, right? But our government won't give any money for that because we're too busy about giving $300 million to Indonesia a year, a country that flogs gay people in the street, and we're too busy paying millions of dollars to the UN to look after our farmers and to look after our pensioners that are struggling, that can't pay their power bills because of our ridiculous climate change policies, which both parties are following, I might add. So Australia is trapped. It's an absolute disgrace. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you very much.